Harambee! Neno hili si hivyo, mambo ni matatu.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is something which we've consistently opined on this platform, that in politics nothing happens out of mere coincidence, and that everything in politics is normally well planned, well scripted, and executed to achieve a specific political objective. Nothing in politics just happens for the sake of it. A few months ago, one man, Jeremiah Kioni, was notorious of making this statement.
As the Jubilee Party, we have our own candidate also called Matiangi. Waende wakae na wale aende wakae na wale wengine. Tuhakikishe Kasongo ameenda nyumbani asubuhi na mapema. But for that to happen, lazima mwanze kufanya registration, msukume maneno kwa watu, na hatutaki vita. Hatutaki jamii candidate kutoka kwa mlima. Na wapi wa mlima, mimi nawaomba, yero. Sasa si umekuja, sisi tunaongea namna hii. Unasema sasa tukae kando kidogo. Mtu mwingine yeah.
Do you think Jeremiah Kioni was mad to make those statements? For those who've been following this channel, I've always opined that anytime you want to get the thinking of William Ruto, you don't need to look for William Ruto. Just pay close attention to what one man, Oscar Sudi, is saying. The same way to Raila Odinga. Just pay close attention to what Junet Mohammed is saying. For Mudavadi, just pay close attention to what Agoi is saying. Ladies and gentlemen, Uhuru Kenyatta is planning to hand over Jubilee Party to Fred Matiangi. There was an article yesterday in the Daily Nation. Let me read for you only the first two paragraphs. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta is considering handing over the leadership of his Jubilee Party to ex-Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiangi ahead of 2027 elections. The nation has learned. Mr. Kenyatta has convened a special national delegates conference for the former ruling party on September 26th for members to make a resolution on the plan to make Dr. Matiang'i the party leader, as well as its 2027 presidential candidate. Which means Jeremiah Kioni was right. And the question is Jubilee Party the best bet for Matiang'i as his vehicle for 2027? Or should Fred Matiang'i form his own political party? Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be the discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the discussion we are going to have on this platform today. Because you know two things. Number one, Jubilee Party can actually be a very good vehicle for Fred Matiang'i in his bid of becoming the next president of the Republic of Kenya. But number two, Jubilee Party can also be a very huge baggage for Fred Matiang'i to carry ahead of 2022 presidential elections. First of all, I want us to look at why Jubilee Party might not necessarily be a good option for Fred Matiang'i. Number one, if Matiang'i were to run on Jubilee Party ticket, there is a high chance that it's going to be tagged as a project of none other than Uhuru Kenyatta. Because remember, Uhuru is the party leader of Jubilee Party. Jeremiah Kioni used to tell us that Matiang'i will be the Jubilee candidate. Of course, within the political circles, it is believed that Matiang'i has his own political party. So the fact is, if you were to pick Jubilee, he will deal with that project tag. And we know how projects have always ended. Number two, there is also the Rigathi Gachagua factor in Mount Kenya politics. Rigathi Gachagua wants to stamp his authority in Mount Kenya. And indeed, he has already stamped that authority. The entry or the return of Jubilee Party will be viewed by Rigathi Gachagua and his allies as a competitor. They might agree to support Matiang'i, But what about Jubilee candidates on the ground? So that is something which he will have to deal with. Basically, we'll have to deal with Uhuru versus Rigathi factor. Because Uhuru Kenyatta is still very angry and very bitter with Rigathi Gachagua for what he termed as betrayal. Number 3, Jubilee Party ruled this country for 10 years. And they left office. So there is some Jubilee baggage, which definitely any regime will have. So those baggage will be placed on the shoulder of Fred Matiangi. But that is how it can affect his bid. As we speak, Fred Matiangi does not have a political party. Several parties are still trying to court him to be their candidate, which means Matiangi is actually a credible presidential candidate. But can Jubilee Party provide him that platform? Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to just look at some of the advantage Matiangi can actually derive by picking Jubilee as a political party. Number 1, Jubilee Party has a national outlook as we speak. That is a fact you can't deny. Why? Because Jubilee Party is a former ruling party, just like KANU has national appeal. And as a former party, remember, Jubilee Party supported Raila Odinga. And despite the fact that Raila Odinga was not very popular amongst the mountain, they gave Raila Odinga over 1 million votes. So if Matiangi were to run on that party, he can start by banking on the votes Raila got from the mountain. Remember, Matiangi is relying on the Kisii votes as his stronghold for a start. So if you were to add it to that, and remember, Raila was hated. Currently, Ruto is not the darling of the mountain. And I'm 100% sure that the mountain are also debating whether Rigathi can actually be a good presidential candidate. So he can easily win those support because Jubilee is a national party. They can reactivate those networks. I know for sure that if Uhuru Kenyatta were to pick his phone and scroll and say he wants to call someone from Lamu, he will easily do that. They have those networks. Unlike now forming his own political party, which might take time. And again, that party which is based in Namira, it would be difficult for him to make it a national party. So it has that advantage. Number 2, there is the Uhuru Kenyatta factor in all this. You know, Uhuru is a former president. He has his supporters. He has people who believe in him. The mountain rejected Uhuru Kenyatta in the last election. I'm not so sure whether Uhuru Kenyatta will be a major factor, but the truth is he has his supporters down there. And apart from that, Uhuru Kenyatta, being a former president, has the connections within the government. Uhuru Kenyatta has the funding, if he needs the funding, which I'm going to explain. So Uhuru Kenyatta factor can actually also work to his advantage. Uhuru Kenyatta played a huge role for Raila Odinga. He was able to persuade people like Kalonzo not to bolt out. I'm trying to imagine if Kalonzo had bolted out, how the numbers would have looked for Raila Odinga. Number 3, Matiangi can position strategically that Jubilee Party as a Mount Kenya-based political party. Jubilee is associated with the mountain. It would be easy for Matiangi to project that party as Mount Kenya political party, just the way Ruto did with his UDA party. But Ruto was strategic enough. He made sure that the key leaders of that party were from the mountain. Fred Matiangi can actually do the same. Position the party as Mount Kenya-based political party. Then now they can go into election. And if need be, sign even some agreement. So he can easily do that. And by doing that, the mountain will be able, because in 2027, the truth is Mount Kenya will play a huge role in determining who becomes the next president. Number 4, the finance. 2027 presidential elections is going to be the most expensive presidential election in the history of the Republic of Kenya. It will require funding. Now, if you have the support of the mountain, you are assured of funding. Even Ruto was really funded by people from the mountain. Even Raila Odinga was really funded. We were talking sometimes back with our friends. There was a time the Luo professionals organized a fundraiser for Raila Odinga. I think the fundraiser was at Villarosa. I was present there. You know, Luos came there with their big cars, machines, you know, suits. You know, when the time came, everybody was donating 100,000, including people I thought would carry even 10 million. They were carrying 100,000, donating there. And then they go outside there how they are funding Raila Odinga's campaign. When that was happening, SK Macharia was actually literally using Citizen TV to campaign for Raila. His chopper was at the disposal of Raila Odinga. I remember on the same table, some Kikuyu businessmen, we were told, just came there, met with Raila, and he handed Raila Odinga 50 million Kenyan shillings. So the mountain can really pump money into that campaign. And I'm a witness, even on this platform, most of the coffee I get are from the people of the mountain. So if they embrace Matiangi, they'll really fund that outfit, including the Mount Kenya Foundation. Because right now, they even feel that their businesses are dying because of Ruto. Yeah, so they might really go there with emotions. And you know how the mountain can really react emotionally. And importantly, Matiangi can actually inject new energy into that Jubilee party. You see, it was very difficult to revive Kanu because Kanu ruled the country for a very long time. So it was very difficult to revive it when it died. Because of course, you talk of Uhuru Kenyatta, he was being viewed as Ruto's, as Moi's son. So it was very difficult to shed off the Moi tag. They even tried rebranding it, it couldn't work. But for Jubilee, if Matiangi were to take over, he can then bring people like Peter Munya on board. He can look for credible people and assign them serious positions within that outfit. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Do you think Jubilee Party can actually be a good bet for Fred Matiangi? Let me know in the comment section. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.